The village of Dunmere clung to the edge of the Yorkshire moors like a stubborn lichen, where the land dropped suddenly into black cliffs and the North Sea gnawed at the rock below. Fog arrived most afternoons without warning, thick enough to swallow sound and light alike. Only one road led to the village, and that same road ended at the rusted iron gates of Hollowmere Hall. The hall itself was a gray stone sentinel 7 centuries old, its tower leaning westward as though listening for something far out over the water. Ivy had long since claimed the walls, threading through cracked mortar like veins. No light ever showed in the windows after dusk. No smoke rose from the chimneys. The villagers did not speak of it unless forced, and even then their voices dropped to whispers. In the autumn of 2025, a letter arrived for Clara Marsden in her small Leeds flat. The envelope was heavy cream paper, postmarked from a defunct solicitor's office in Whitby. Inside lay a single brass key, cold to the touch and smelling faintly of damp earth, together with a typed notice of inheritance. Hollowmere Hall and its surrounding grounds now belonged to her, sole heir of Evelyn Ashcroft, last documented resident, vanished 1892. A handwritten line in faded blue ink had been added at the bottom. The Hollow remembers. Do not speak its name aloud. Clara was 34, a freelance sound engineer who specialized in location ambience and audiobook narration. Her voice, low, measured, almost confiding, had once been in steady demand. Then a horror anthology recording went viral for the wrong reasons. Listeners reported intrusive thoughts after hearing it, vivid dreams of falling into darkness. One reviewer claiming the narration continued inside her skull long after the file ended. Platforms quietly removed the track. Contracts dried up. Rent notices accumulated. The inheritance, however improbable, offered escape. She packed a hardshell case with her portable recorder, shotgun microphone, boundary mics, cables, backup drives, and a small digital audio workstation. She included thermal layers, a headlamp, and a voice-activated field recorder she sometimes used for nocturnal wildlife. She told no one her destination. On the last day of October, she drove north through rain that turned to sleet, then to fog so dense the headlights seemed to bounce back at her. The iron gates stood open when she arrived. No chain, no padlock. The gravel drive was more moss than stone. Tires crunched over brittle things she did not want to identify. The front door hung slightly ajar, as though someone had left in haste and never returned. Inside, the air was colder than the November dusk outside. It carried the scent of old books, wet stone, and something metallic, old coins left in rainwater. Her boots echoed on the black and white marble floor of the entrance hall. A grand staircase rose into shadow. On the newel post sat a single beeswax candle, wick blackened but unburned, wax pooled around its base in the rough shape of a handprint. Clara set her equipment in what must once have been the drawing room. Heavy velvet curtains still hung in long tatters. A cavernous fireplace yawned opposite tall windows that showed only fog. She connected the shotgun mic to her recorder, leveled the gain, and spoke her standard slate. Clara Marsden, Hollowmere Hall, 31st October 2025. Ambient test. Interior entrance hall, 1742 hours. The meters jumped. Not wind through cracks. Not settling timbers. A low, multi-layered hum rose immediately, almost subsonic, like 50 voices murmuring in unison just below the threshold of comprehension. She stopped recording, rewound, played back at half speed. The hum resolved into overlapping sighs. Her name threaded through them, spoken in every regional accent she had ever captured. Broad Yorkshire, soft Cumbrian, estuary London, even the gentle Lancashire of her late mother. She deleted the file without listening to the end. She told herself it was the acoustics of old stone, trapped resonances, nothing more. Houses this age were notorious for sonic peculiarities. She decided to document the space methodically. If the ambience proved unique, she might license it to a sound library. Money was money. The library filled most of the ground floor. Floor-to-ceiling shelves held volumes bound in cracked calf and vellum, titles in Latin, Old English, and scripts she could not name. One book lay open on a reading lectern, Voces Subterranei, printed Antwerp 1673. The double-page illustration showed a cross-section of a manor house with a deep shaft beneath it. Lantern-bearing figures descended a rope ladder while pale faces stared upward from the darkness. The caption beneath read, "They who learn the tongue of the hollow may never speak another." Clara closed the volume. Dust drifted upward in a slow spiral. Upstairs, the bedrooms waited in frozen tableaus. 4 posters draped in moth-eaten silk. A nursery with wooden toys arranged in a perfect circle on the rug. Soldier, horse, doll, bear, lamb. In the master suite, a tall pier glass still held most of its silvering. When she stepped before it, her reflection delayed half a second before mirroring her movement. She backed away. The glass eyes followed. At the end of the corridor, a narrow service door stood ajar. Beyond it, a stone staircase spiraled downward. No electric light. She switched on her headlamp. The beam caught moisture glistening on the walls. Each step echoed twice, once forward, once behind, as though someone matched her pace exactly. The stairs ended in a circular chamber perhaps 20 feet across. In the center yawned a well, its rim dressed stone, wide enough for 2 people to stand side by side. A new coil of hemp rope lay beside a wooden bucket that looked freshly planed. The rope smelled of tar and recent use. She leaned over the edge. The headlamp beam dropped and vanished long before it should have reached bottom. Only the slow drip of water answered, regular as a metronome set to 40 beats per minute. She extended the shotgun mic on its boom arm, lowered it 20 meters. The cable played out smoothly. At 30 meters, the dripping grew louder in the headphones. At 40 meters, it stopped. She kept lowering. The needle on the recorder stayed pinned. When she pulled the mic back up, the cable felt heavier, as though something had briefly tugged the other end. She carried the recording to the drawing room and listened on headphones. Beneath the dripping came voices, soft, patient, intimate. "Clara, Clara, come down. We have waited so long." She yanked the headphones off. Her ears rang. That night she chose the master bedroom because it had the only mattress not mildewed beyond use. She dragged clean linens from a cedar chest, made the bed, and left every lamp burning. Sleep came in fragments. At 3:17 she woke to footsteps on the landing, slow, deliberate, approaching. The footsteps stopped outside the door. No knock, no voice. She lay rigid until gray light seeped through the curtains. In daylight, the wet footprints were unmistakable. They began at the foot of the bed, crossed the floorboards, continued down the corridor, and descended the narrow staircase. They ended at the lip of the well. Clara decided to leave. The iron gates were closed again. A heavy chain had reappeared. Padlock rusted shut as though it had never been disturbed. She tried the brass key. It would not turn. She walked the perimeter of the grounds. Dense yew hedge, 10 feet high and barbed with thorns like iron nails, encircled the property without a single gap. She returned to the house. The phonograph in the drawing room, a rosewood cabinet model from the 1890s, began to play without being cranked. A woman's voice sang a wordless lullaby in a minor key. The needle lifted itself when the melody finished. Clara sat on the bottom step of the grand staircase and allowed herself to cry, quiet, controlled sobs that echoed strangely in the empty hall. Then she stood. If she could not leave, she would understand. She carried her full kit to the well chamber. Recorder, mixer, 8 boundary mics, cables, spare batteries, external drives. She arranged the boundary mics in a circle around the rim, connected them to the mixer, and fed the output to the main recorder. She opened every channel, set phantom power, hit record. Clara Marsden, Hollowmere Hall, final ambient capture series. Date 31st October 2025. If this recording is recovered, listen carefully. She lowered the shotgun mic once more, paying out cable until it reached its limit 60 meters. The dripping returned, then the voices, clearer now, almost conversational. Thank you for coming home. We have been silent for so long. Tell us your story. We will tell you ours. She spoke. She told them about the viral recording that ruined her career, the way clients began canceling after hearing it, the eviction notice still taped to her lead's door. She spoke of her mother's long illness, the hospital monitors that flatlined in perfect unison the moment she died. She admitted the nights she sat alone listening to her own archived tracks and hearing things that had never been in the original takes. Breathing, whispers, her name spoken softly from the other side of the mix. The voices listened without interruption. When she finished, there was a long silence. Then one voice, hers but younger, the way she had sounded at 16, answered. We are the stories that were never finished. The hollow keeps them, keeps us. It needs new stories to stay alive. You were chosen because you listen, because you make voices permanent. Stay. Record. Feed the hollow. In return, we will give you silence. Real silence. No more echoes in your head. She stared into the black mouth of the well. She thought of the flat waiting empty in Leeds, the sleeping tablets in the bathroom cabinet she had not yet touched, the gate that refused to open. She nodded once. She began again. Not her story this time, but theirs. She narrated the night in 1892 when Thomas Ashcroft descended with a lantern and did not return. She described the children's drawings discovered later. Pale faces crowding upward from below, mouths open in silent song. She spoke of Evelyn's final entry in the household ledger, written in a shaking hand. I have lowered the last candle. They are waiting. I will follow. The hollow must be fed. As she spoke, the hum grew richer, warmer, almost maternal. It wrapped around her like a blanket. Hours passed. The headlamp dimmed, then died. She continued in darkness, voice steady, recording every word. Days blurred. Food appeared on the kitchen table, fresh bread, apples, cold well water in a pewter jug. She ate without question. She slept in short stretches on the rug beside the well, waking to the sound of dripping. She recorded everything. One night, she lowered the final boundary mic as far as the cable allowed. She heard her own voice returning. Older now, calm, content. You have done well. The hollow is full again. Now rest. She sat on the stone rim. Her legs dangled over the edge. No fear remained, only a vast, quiet relief. She let go. The fall was slow, almost gentle, like sinking through black water that had no temperature. Voices rose to meet her. Evelyn's measured contralto, Thomas's baritone, the high piping of children, countless others layered beneath. They welcomed her. They told her she was home. Above, in the drawing room, the phonograph needle lifted itself. The house fell silent. Weeks later, a county surveyor arrived after repeated complaints of an abandoned property visible on satellite imagery. The iron gates stood open. The chain lay coiled in the grass like a shed skin. Inside, every room was clean, dustless, orderly. Journals had vanished from desks. The well chamber stood empty save for a single brass-bound shotgun microphone resting on the rim, cable neatly coiled beside it. The surveyor pressed play. Clara's voice filled the chamber, low, calm, precise. The same voice that had once narrated ghost stories. This is Clara Marsden. Hollowmere Hall. The hollow remembers. The hollow is fed. If you are listening, do not speak its name aloud. The file ended. The surveyor placed the microphone back on the rim exactly as he found it. He locked the gate behind him. He never returned. In Dunmere they still say the hall stands empty. Yet on fog-bound nights, when the moor road is deserted, walkers sometimes hear a single voice drifting on the wind, soft, measured, almost kind, narrating stories no one ever wrote down. And deep beneath the stone, in darkness without bottom, the hollow listens. It always listens.